Hello, everybody, and Merry Christmas all around the world. This is the final podcast before I think everybody in the community kind of just hangs up the cleats for like a week and go, let's go eat some food. Let's in Denmark we dance around the Christmas tree. I know when I mentioned this before to some people like what, but yes, we do that. So, Beth, today you have kind of an initiative for the podcast. You want to do ugly Christmas sweater?
Yes, ugly. It's very American, but this is my ugly sweater. It's like a weird
Like a llama?
llama wearing like Christmas tree glasses and the green screen is kind of but yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
that was
it's
like
total.
last night. Last night in Zone T, you're wearing the awesome jersey, and like you're like this cyborg thing. You're like missing half an arm, missing this, you're missing the stomach. It's like Terminator T1000.
I think I need a blue screen in the back so I can
But
wear
that
all my
doesn't work.
CVR green. No, it doesn't
We
work in
went. I have
VMix,
a
does
blue
it?
screen just in the closet over there, and Victor and I bought it. But VMix is such a like it's an amazing piece of software, but it does the most unnecessary stuff to perfection. But the basic stuff, the stuff that you're thinking like, of course, what work? Like if I had a blue screen, what it would do would just blue screen me out. It'd be like you're blue. I'm
Oh.
like no. So
Okay, well, you know what? I'm just gonna look like a cyborg, and when I wear green, I'm gonna be semi-transparent,
we should just
So
figure out a different color than green to wear. But since I don't like, I said to Beth prior to going live that next year I'll fully domesticate to the UK and I'll, invest in an ugly Christmas sweater. But for the time being, I have this gift from my sister, like a few Christmases ago. It says
Oh,
Tree
cool.
Rex. So without further ado, let's have an ugly Christmas hat attire. But this is
Ah, love it.
ugly.
That that is the spirit. That is awesome.
I
There you
have.
go.
I
Tree
mean,
Rex.
somewhere around the world, my sister's sitting there laughing. But we're here today to talk about the different tracks that have been submitted for the track building competition because I've been some heated, like, people have really put in some effort, and then there's some people that really haven't. But we'll get to that. But
I know.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm like I put in some effort. But
I'm not, did you
yeah,
even submit your track yet? I haven't seen yours
I
yet.
have I technically have a few hours, but I know that I'm not in contention, but I feel like I should. I made my candy cane shape track. I just haven't done much by way of decorating, which is I know it's shameful.
That's all okay. It's all passable. So, the tracks that have been submitted, we have 10 of so far, and we're going to chat through them here today because the tracks that have been submitted now are not the final tracks. You still have 10 hours. Beth can still get in. I think Kayla is still working on it, so it's at the end of today. The point of Beth and I podcast today is to talk through the current 10, give us our thoughts on them. What do we like? What don't we like? What blows our mind? Are we excited to race it, etc.? And then just so you understand the whole voting process, today is not when the voting begins. The voting begins tomorrow. There will be a vote, there'll be a poll on CVRcade Riders, and you'll be given one vote. So if you like track 1 the best, you vote for track 1. If you like track 2 the best, you vote for that, and so far, pretty self-explanatory in that regards. Frank will get the same options, so we'll send him all the tracks. We'll just say, Frank, pick the one you like the best. Then Vig, Beth, and I, as a unit, will come up with who we like the best. And if it's a tiebreaker, then it's Frank's vote that is the decider at the end of the day. But without further ado, Beth, because we have a lot of track to dive into here, and Seb is up first. Now, Seb sent
Yeah.
in his track, and when I saw it, I'm like, I like this. Like, I'm like, it's over. Everybody just go home. This is it. This is the track. This is the winner. See you later, everybody. What did you think?
Oh, he did a great job. And when I first turned it on, I had my YouTube on mute, and I knew that some people were adding commentary, so I put it on, and I'm like, he has this like punk rock song in the background, and it kind of like actually like drives the track. I'm all about the soundtrack, so it was really fun to see what music he decided. I know that has nothing to do with the track builder. It was just, but I
Oh, it's
was like,
great.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just was picturing him racing on it, to that music. And so, when I was looking at all the tracks, including Seb's, I was like, okay, well, what's it look like visually? How complex is it to race? Would it be one that's good to race? And I know that you and Vic were saying it's all on how it looks. It's all on how it looks. But I think that this was a really nice combination. visual complexity. I liked the rolling terrain, which is super impressive because with my candy cane track, which I still have 10 hours to submit, it did it he did a good job with those gradients coming back and matching them up, which I was having a little bit of a hard time with. So it looks like a fun track. I was really impressed.
Yeah, and considering he went with a realistic theme, like the track builder is fantastic if you go for a fantastical theme. There are just a plethora of options. If you go for a road theme or a mountain bike theme, it's like you feel like a geologist. You're like, should I have this like nicely shaped rock or should I have that nicely shaped rock? And you're like, you know what? I'll just stick with the fantastical theme. He did a great job. I think it'll be a good race because it's so up and down. It's twisty. It's turny. The music, like punk rock, is amazing. That's my type of music. But what really, like, what I think he maybe could have worked a tiny bit on, and that's just me being nitpicky because I gave the same feedback to Victor as he was building it, is that I hate when the road is floating for no reason. I hate when there's no support pillars underneath, or you can see around the corner and like. You're on a realistic looking track, right? It's supposed to have physics, yet you just see this little thing just floating and there's like this gap in between. That was the only thing, because Beth, if you lose the sense of realism, if there's like that level of uncanny valley, it just kind of goes, the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand what you mean by grounded, and I think Ben in one of the podcasts was talking about having, the road
Hmm.
supports, and he did the same thing in his Summit Island, which was fantastical, and it starts really up high, so he built some pillars, and I saw in some of the later tracks of people putting stuff under there, maybe a boulder underneath it, or different things along the side. So, but it doesn't really bother me so much. I don't know. Like I feel like it's all fantastic, all fantastical. So like I can, I'm floating above, and I'm cool with that. But I also, I also just am really impressed with sort of sizing and placement because
Hmm.
now having experimented a little bit, I really appreciate how that functions. So I
When
was
I
going to be a tough grader until I went in and tried it myself, and now I'm a little more lenient.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience. The amount of people that have come and said, first of all, I hope the artists have better tools than this, because if they don't, I feel for them. And secondly, they're like, whoever, like the community track builders, the Allison, the Ben, the me, the Kayla, like they just have a newfound respect for what we did back when the game first started, because we built some of these tracks, and it's not exactly easy. And like Beth, having to duplicate an object, like we can talk about my track further when we get into there. But how is that not a feature? Duplicate object is like Control C, Control V. It's like the most essential tool of life, and it wasn't there. So what I had to do is I went and I downloaded something called a macro recorder. So it records the steps that I give it, like the inputs. So I click here, type these numbers. And so what I would do is I would just load in 100 objects, 100 buildings. I would click, and then I would just run the script, and I'd just sit here while the computer resizes everything, puts it in the right place. That just took so
Clever.
much time. No,
Clever.
it's
Yeah,
not
but
clever.
if you did it without that macro, that's impressive because when we get to your track, that was going to be my question, how you had everything sort of like
There's no impress. Like when we get to my track in the decoration, let's just get the ground rules down. There's nothing impressive. It is incredibly sad. Sunday morning, I woke up. I made myself a cup of coffee. I sat down and I'm like, I don't want to spend my work week working on this because it's just a
but
side
you did.
project. And I sat down at 10 o'clock and I left at midnight and the track was only two-thirds done. And I was like, see, if I win this, it's sad because I win my own competition. If I don't win this, I'm the guy who spent like 14 hours building something who still doesn't win. Oh, it's
But it's
fun
it's
though.
all the joy and an experience of it, right? Because I think now we can make a little note that we want this Control C, Control V feature.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Yes,
Vig is
please.
up next, by the way, and Vig's track. That was the one I shared. So I got a lot of questions like, how should I decorate? Like when people were submitting it, there was a lot of like, I don't know if my track is any good. So I thought I would just share one, and that was Victor's track. So the second track you've already seen, the Lost City of Java. Now, Victor wanted it to call it something. Victor can't be here today, by the way, because he's a slacker. He's in Madeira enjoying the sun on the beach for Christmas. Well,
Uh,
I mean, can't believe it. But he wanted to call it the Lost City of Jaipur. But because the track widget doesn't extend that far. It was just the lost city of Jai, and so he changed it to Java. But what did you think of Vic's track?
Well, I'm glad to hear the derivation of the track name because I was like Java and I'm like trying to like think, is there like a secret cup of coffee somewhere? Is it like highly caffeinated?
You could have
Yeah,
called
I
it
thought it.
Javel. Now thinking about it, the name of our company.
Javel, see, you could have done that. Well, I think I love that he had some obstacles in there. I love the different sizing. This is one where you can sort of float on the track because he
Hmm.
made those sort of mountains feel like the digital mountains feel bigger, so it did feel like there was some more grounding to it. But it's just interesting to see how people can take. As I look at all of the courses, these elements and make something unique and different out of the exact same sort of canvas, right? And yeah, I think he did a really nice a nice job and the terrain again. I have such an such a respect for how those come back together. I think he did a nice job.
The greatest thing about Vic's track is that I think he was the only one who successfully managed to cover up every single disabled lane. Like that was something that him and I discussed like during the day when we're just chatting ideas. And like we don't like seeing the purple or the pink on the side of the road. It doesn't look good. And so Vic, when he went in, he made it his purpose to cover it up. If it's a disabled lane, it should be a disabled lane because Vic, the first time he raced, it was on Country Rally. And on Country Rally, on the finishing straight, there is one pixel to the left of one of like the logs that is a disabled lane. And it doesn't look that way. And Vic comes in for the sprint. He hits it. He's like, I can hear him scream. And we have like a 4-story house. And I can hear him on the bottom floor. He's like, ah! So he
Oh
wanted to
my
make sure that
gosh.
nobody had that experience.
Well, that's a really good point, though, because I remember when, in the early days of CVRcade where we had the disabled lanes and it was just sort of like that red strip.
Hmm.
And it definitely works for dark matter velo, right? Where because it's this glowy, the way that lane works. But out on a track, having something to navigate around. So, yeah, and I hadn't even thought about that until you brought it up that he actually put the obstacles in. Now, I haven't tried that. Now, when you're talking about that macros, I mean, you can't use that trick because you actually have to precisely cover it for the
Hmm.
distance of the track, right? So if the track segment is like 10 meters, then your object has to be 10 meters. And it has to be, if it's the fourth lane, it has to be the fourth lane, right? Am I understanding the complexity of that challenge?
Can we just never talk about this again? Like, this is bringing back, like, I'm so embarrassed by that day because, I had fun. Like, I'll say this. It's the most fun I've had in a very, very, very long time. Like, having this, because I'm a creative person, getting to build something that's in my head and the idea that people might race it one day that, like, I built it as, I hope this becomes like a Dust Bowl crit. I hope it becomes the decider of the World Cup finale. That was my thoughts. I'm sure people had different thoughts out there. But when it came to the macro, Beth, all you could do is like bunch it all up. Like you could essentially put it on a conveyor belt, create 100 identically looking buildings, but then you have to go in with like a little object picker and then go place, place, place. And there is over 1,000 objects on my track, and I am still so sad.
That's you know what that is dedication and that is so awesome. So I have again so much props for Vic, but I didn't know. I'm going to look now for that thing on Country Rally because I had not noticed
To the
that.
left
So
of the final lock in the middle, there is one sliver, like there's like one pixel that if you touch it, you crash. So it's always better to go to the right.
I'm going to
But
just blame it on that one pixel if I crash
that
it.
is the reason you didn't win the CVRK World
That's
Cup.
you know what that is the whole
That
reason.
pixel. But Vic's track is good, and also it
It's
helps with
great.
the suspense of belief is because it's fantastical. So, like he does put in pillars, he does put in all these things, but because you're not going for a one-to-one real live feel, it doesn't have to all be in the laws of physics because you kind of just accept like I'm in space or I'm on some sunken island or whatever it is. Vic's track is really really good. Now, at the end of this, Beth and I will say our favorites, not necessarily who we're going to vote for because I'd rather save that for tomorrow. But before we move on to Aaron, I had a care package delivered. And Beth, I think your peeps arrived yesterday, but I have to still go pick them up from the Royal Mail, so I didn't quite make it to that one. But what did show up this morning was another Velocity Vixen gift. and I have no clue how to pronounce this. It's like a Fiol de Labre. It's from Ryan Goldenberg, and it is maple leaf. Oh, nothing happened there. Maple leaf cookies, like maple syrup leaf cookies. And is this how it feels to be a free agent? Like, was this why? Like, did Casey Shum feel this good when like teams came around? Was like, you can have Peeps, you can have maple syrup cookies. I mean, cheers, Ryan. Thank you very much for the kind gift.
Oh, I'm so glad that they came. How are they? Are they? What's your review?
They're very sweet. That's a lot of sugar. That is
That's
like Ryan. How are you not obese?
Just consider that a primer for the peeps. Just consider that a primer.
It
So
tastes
you'll
like
have to.
nuts. Like it tastes like yeah, this tastes like Christmas. It's good. I like that a lot. Thank you,
It tastes
Ryan.
like Christmas. Not
But
a balsam fir, but
no, but you know Christmas has like a, well, at least to me, it has a specific smell, it has a specific taste to like the things you always enjoy at Christmas. Like the sense of Christmas, like a Christmas tree smells a specific way. It kind of reminds me of that. Thank you very
yeah,
much.
peppermint bark. Peppermint bark is what does it for me. That makes me.
Peppermint bark. Is that
Yes.
like the tree you put in your car after you've had a wash? Is that like one of those?
It's like chocolate that's melted, and then it looks like bark, and then they put like crushed candy canes on top. So it's candy cane crushed on top of chocolate. So a couple of my
Again, how
favorite
are you not
things.
obese? Like how are you not just like how are you not just incredibly fat?
I ride my bike a lot, so yeah, that's
That's
uh,
true.
that's pretty much what does it. That just kind of, it doesn't undo all the sins, but it takes care of enough.
Well, thank you very much. I
Ryan's nice.
appreciate it. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for the peeps, Beth. I would have him on here, but it's a half an hour walk to the to the thing. I wouldn't make
You
it
will
back.
have to get back to me with how you like them. So,
Yep. But now Aaron's track, and I like when I saw Aaron's track, I was like, oh please no, because he used the exact same idea that I had. Like, put this thing in space, have like this space station that looks so cool and hasn't been done before. And I think there was so much potential. Like the way the road is, the way he's done the disabled lanes, brilliant. The gradients, brilliant. Tough track, but I'm just missing a bit of decorations on this.
yeah, I mean, so again, this one when it's floating in space, it's sort of like you can forgive like the supports, and it just kind of climbs up and winds through. Very futuristic. I did see a couple road supports that he put in there, but what I really like was that there's a descent to the finish line.
Hmm.
Like we've seen so many hard courses that are like, oh, this hairpin turn before the
Or
finish
straight
line
up.
on Dust Bowl Grit. Yeah, or straight up on Summit Island. Thank you, Ben, for both of those. But so Aaron tries to, yeah, I mean, really, Aaron gives us a tough track, but at the end, he kind of like, there's like this like little grade down to the finish line. So I feel like, I'm like, well, that's nice. It did look like, I was trying to figure out, and I didn't play a lot with that theme, but it looked like it was solar panels down below.
Hmm.
So you're climbing up, and then it looked like these. So he did add some decorations in and to make it add some depth. But I like having something happening a little bit on the sides that you go by to give you a little bit of a sensation of movement.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a lot, but that seems to help my brain trick that I'm not standing still.
That was a massive thing as well when I looked through these tracks is something that Swift does really, really well with their tracks, well, considering they come out once every 6 months, is that they've got everything so enclosed and it just feels like you're moving quick. Like it always feels like you're speeding on through. With a lot of the CVRcade tracks, for some reason the trees are like 10 miles off the road or the buildings or everything. Like the best piece of road on CVRcade is Rocky Mountains with the trees like overarching like this. Like that is the one point when you get this vertigo feel of like I'm actually moving here. Like I'm what I do makes a difference. And if you had an entire track built like that, that's when you end up just doing laps and laps and laps because before you know it, you've ridden like 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers. But like Aaron's track is great. Now, I know Aaron is very, very eager to us to ride the track because he's like, I just want to see people crash. I just want to see people hit the gradients. I want to see people tire out, and I want to see people crash. So I'll make you this deal, Aaron. If you can record yourself racing your own track alone, if you can do one full lap, all out effort, and send the video, I'll try and make sure that we race this in one of the days. But until then, I'm not sure about it. But Aaron's track was a track that I hope the artists kind of look at and take over. Because I think the way it's been done is very clever. It's very gamey. It's very, how can we cause the most amount of plays in the least amount of time to keep it all exciting. But I liked Aaron's track. Now, moving on, Beth, Sun Shower. Batista. What did you make of her little, I don't even know, I think she called it a NASCAR track?
Yeah, I mean, so well, first of all, too, I was like, when I was watching what people recorded, I kind of got a glimpse into sort of their dashboard. Like Sebastian puts his rearview mirror in front, and and Sunshower put her like over like the oval here. So I was kind of like saying, okay, and trying to see the gradients and stuff based on what they recorded. But I have come to really love an oval track, and this one, it just feels like you are just moving through a tunnel, and with the lights overhead and the flashy lights, it kind of like, I felt like I was like on a hospital bed being like sucked through, like or traveling through space and time, like in a tube. And so you definitely had that sensation, but it was sort of like light, flash, 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 flash. So definitely, it's kind of got like an electronic rush feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wanna race it for a quick beat, and then go on to something that lets your eyes sort of adjust a little bit. But fun track.
It was good. It felt like, Batista, she's lovely. Sunshower is amazing. She tried to explain it to me, and she's like, I didn't really know how to do the decorations and stuff. I think the track, she named it like the $5 Blue Tunnel track, which is just...
Oh, is that what she named it?
I think
That's
so.
awesome.
Like, I think
love
she
it.
named it based on how many decorations she bought. Brilliant. I really liked it. I get this like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, like the bus that moves in and out or whatever, that little like
Oh
adjustable thing.
yeah, yeah.
That's kind of the feel I get with the track. Now, I don't know how much effort has been put into the track, because I think she literally just went in and decorated it, but I like it. Sunshower, you're amazing. I think it
Yeah,
was just,
thank you
it's
for
funny. Like
submitting that.
the name alone, the $5 track. I just thought that was just so blunt, so funny, so honest. Now, then we've got kind of everybody's favorite, the one that everybody expected great things from. So a lot of pressure, but I think Ben kind of lived up to it. I liked his track.
Yeah, so it's sort of like you have like a star student in class, right? And and you can't help but by give them sort of harder metrics to, you know what I mean? You're like, well, I expect more from you,
It is
Ben. Like,
rigged.
the student.
I
It's
hate
this.
that.
What's that?
No, that is so rigged because I had that
I
growing up.
know.
It's like
I
because
know.
you do your homework, we're gonna set your grading scale up here, and we're
I
disappointed. I'm
know.
like, what?
It's totally not fair. It's 100% not fair, but that's what happens, right? Because we have such an expectation. He set such a high bar for himself. But what I really love about it, I made some notes here. It's kind of like the trees that he selected. It's got this sort of Alice in Wonderland,
Mm-hmm.
Wizard of Oz kind of vibe to it, right? So, the he sunk the mushrooms in the water on some of them, and he had disabled lanes. So he gave a good mix in the short amount of time. He gave a good mix of a curvy technical track where you have to really think about, you come around the corner and you have to move to the right, or you have to, so he really put a lot of thought into the racing dynamics. He used the objects creatively, which you would expect. And I think my favorite part is when, I know he mentioned that he also likes to have the track supported when it's
Mm-hmm.
right, but I love when it's through the trees. I love that the trees are holding up the track when it goes up. So I thought that was really, really clever. So just a fun track, and yeah, it's wicked. Like I feel like it's like it's got like a wicked, and
Feels
maybe
like a
it's the
horror
trees.
movie. It's like you're just
Yeah,
waiting for something to jump out at you, like, hey, spooky. But like Ben's forte is like track design, not like decoration. I think the decoration is great, but what he really shined is his forethought into designing the track with writing it in mind. Because like you can make the most aesthetically pleasing track in the world, but if it doesn't race well, if it doesn't feel well, it's just gonna be forgotten and put in a shoebox in the lost and found and never be put out again. But hearing him talk, like, oh, you're going uphill, it's tough, but you also gotta change lanes because there's disabled lanes and coming into the chicane. Like, hearing Ben, I think what Ben and later on Luis did as well, actually talking over the track is such a smart thing because you would miss it. Now, Beth, you and I have the advantage of having this forum, so like we can say, oh, I had this in mind, I had this in mind. It's unfair. But Ben and Luis is like, you know what, I could do it too. So Ben talking through it, it kind of felt like a Formula One driver. It felt like Lewis Hamilton on Silverstone coming up to a corner saying, oh, you gotta go down to first gear, accelerate out, get the apex, get back up, hit the NOS. And I like the track. I think it's really, really good. I didn't like the disabled lanes. I just don't, that pink is just so ugly. Like, if you can just fix that, I think Ben is the clear-cut favorite. I think he just wins it out. I just think it's amazing once more. But there's just something about those pink lanes. I wish there's an option, Beth, where you could just disable them. Like, disable the look.
Right, and then it would like make it just like a yeah. Honestly, particularly in this mix of objects, like the pink didn't really stand out, right? Because you have
Yeah.
like sort of like the mushrooms, and so it almost kind of fits in. But it really was his commentary of how
Mm-hmm.
he thought about the raceability, and that's why his tracks are in our race rotation, right? Because Summit Island, Dust Bowl, Crit. I mean, he knows how to design a track. So it was a really fun track.
He's good. I think it'll be hard to beat Ben. With the racing, I think him and Victor are probably like the two favorites I see right now at the top of like who was favorites to win. I like Seb's track. Like Seb is just I think from a very simplistic point of view and I think from a racing point of view, I think it'd be good, but it may just be borderline too tough. But up next is a man who, if his machine is that laggy when he races, no wonder he's crashing a bit and lacking the top end because when Luis submitted his video and I'm like, please don't tell me this is how you see the arcade. Like, you're racing at what, 10 FPS, 7
Right.
FPS? Wow.
Yeah. No, but that was really clever. And again, listening to his commentary, I looked at it at first, and he's like, "Oh," and then you can see it's CVR, and I was like, "Yes, it is." So, taking and adding these like technical curves, and then he was explaining that he's an electrical engineer, so sort of like the way that
Mm-hmm.
it folds back on itself and stuff. So, I love hearing it just to kind of like look inside like our racers' minds. I mean, we think of them as racers, we think of them as these athletes, and to sort of get a glimpse of who they are outside of the racing. So that's also fun,
Mm-hmm.
but very clever to spell it out. But he calls it Boulderville, outdoorsy, the tight corners, lots of boulders, and lots of like off to the horizon line, which is kind of nice depth, I think.
I like that I think he attempted to spell CVR. Of course, when I look at that minimap, I'm not sure, I'm not sure he got all the way there. It's like, when you have to come up with a signature and just go, and you're like, yep, that says Jesper, that is my signature. Yes, that is.
Well, it's
So,
nested, like it's like underlined and it's nested in the top right. So, I saw it. I saw it. Listen, you know what? I cannot be a hard grade. This is the other reason why I'm not even going to tell you how many hours I spent just laying out my candy cane, which I am going to try to submit. But, so thinking about him spelling that out, gives me ideas. And the only reason why I ended up with a candy cane was because a Christmas tree seemed too hard once I started. Because my idea was to do like like this, and I think he did just fine with CVR.
well, Luis, we'll see how you do. It depends on whether we grade you on the Ben Shuey long scale or just the average, normal track building scale.
The unfair subjective scale. I know
It's like,
not fair.
sorry guys, but we're judging based on equalized judging here. We are all about equality, track building for everybody. I want to see you set a new track building curve. Come on, guys. You gotta push hard here.
I love that track builder equalization.
It's good. I like Luis's track. I really like hearing the thoughts. At first, when I heard his voice, I'm like, is there something on my computer? And I'm like, oh, it's Luis. Like with that microphone, he sounded so different. But I like the track. I think it could be raced one day as well. Good effort all around. And then Up next, it's my track. My track. So, my track initially, I based it off Crit City of Swift. So Swift's new track came in Crit City, and like they were like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be used for esports. It's gonna be used for racing. It's great, but there's no, there's no like break in. There's no cornering. There's no lane selection. So it's just that like you may as well do 10 laps of Watopia flat. There's no difference between that and Crit City. So I thought, you know what? Let's build it in CVRcade. Let's see how it races once you've actually got to engage the brain. And I'm surprised how well it feels. Like it feels balanced. It feels good. But the issue with it, Beth, it was too long of a track. Like it's 1.8 kilometers. And the reason why Ben only did 1 kilometer, and he did a kilometer as a circle, so that way when he did one object, it kind of doubled as two because you have to go back on it.
Around,
So
right,
you
and
can
see it from the
double
other
up
side.
work.
Yeah.
But that track was fun to make. Before I continue on, Beth, what thoughts did you have?
Yeah, so I made a few notes here. So it's good to know how you did the buildings because like when it starts in the building, you're in this like futuristic world, so it does give you that like sensation of
Mm-hmm.
racing by. So when I was like saying, oh, okay, so you use the same sort of in space that Aaron used, but you filled it a little bit differently, and then you had some things along the side, which I thought like kind of gave you the sense. So I hadn't seen those little up and down pillar things that were glowing. So that was pretty cool. And then was there satellites
Yeah.
floating in the air? So that was
Yes.
cool. So that's not part of the background that you selected to make those
I
satellites.
tried
So
way too hard. It's sad.
well, no, but this was the first. So thus far, as I was going through the things, I'm like, I gotta ask Jesper about that because it was a floating, moving object. So we see an electronic rush like beep 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 beep. Like it's like a carousel, or a pinball machine is like what I like to think about it. So like you had that floating satellite, and I was like, nice touch, Jesper. Like you went the extra mile to put something floating in space. So I like that. What else? I had one other note. Oh, and then the road is on so there's like this like yellow like water. Like what surface is your road on? Like how did like
Oh,
because I know like there's
so
like this.
yeah, that's a thing. So in sci-fi, the theme, and then you go to Fiona, I think it's called. There's like
Okay.
a space capsule. So that is one thing, and it goes well together with the night sky or the I don't even know what it's called, the space sky. So if you just press the dome, it comes in and it just changes the world you're in. So it takes out the ugly blue, like the really ugly box standard blue, and then the top is transparent, like it's like a 50% opacity, which means if you put anything behind it, it seems to look like you're in this dome and you're looking out at the sky. So it's just like it's two objects like melted together.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was like, huh, I hadn't seen that like yellow surface before. But so again, this is kind of like me looking into into the track builder and not having a chance to go through every little thing and seeing what people choose. So but yeah, I literally thought I was like, I love that you put the satellites. That just sort of like was like it was a level up. And meanwhile, you're like, oh, Beth, that was probably the easiest thing I did. I like downloaded a macros and 13 I was placing beep my little thing beep beep
I'll
beep
tell you this, Beth, that the small things are so pointless. Like what took the longest on that track is not what's going to be appreciated. Like the finishing straight, you have the little incline. That is 200 small skyscrapers put together and then adjusted at a gradient again and again and again. So because the road goes uphill, which means you have to adjust the Y and the X every time. And to do that for 200 tiny little skyscrapers, no one is going to notice that. But the
And you're like doing
satellite.
y equals mx plus b, right? That's the
Wow,
y
no,
equals mx
no.
plus.
I
No,
was
you're not
literally
doing
like
that.
this. I was just like, yep, that looks about, yep, yep. I can't be bothered. But the funny thing is, that satellite, Beth, I literally put in last night while I was like, because Zone T is between 3 and 4 a.m. my time, and I just didn't go to bed last night. So I just sat there to put the finishing touches on it. And I literally sat there going, let's just add a satellite. Whatever, let's just do it. And so, like,
Love it.
the tiniest little thing. But what I can tell you guys is that when you build a track like that, try and keep it condensed. Try and keep it as close, because I went far left and far right then far left, because I got 2/3 done, and I was like, wow, there's so much to do. But it's really good fun. I spent $50. I spent my entire budget getting all the decorations. I just wanted to have everything to play with. I think it's gonna be fun, but I also think that like it has a bit of everything. It took some things I've really liked, like Lakeview Lanes has the part where you have the red obstacles that closes down the road, and you only have three. So on the back end, you do this U-turn, and you've only got 3 lanes. So if you've got a team, then you can actually block all 3 lanes and try and like play a barricade, or you can come around, something like that. I played with having it being a wooden track, but on that little U-turn, but that just made it too difficult. It's a fun track. I hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I want to race it. I want to race it. I want to go on there because when you build a track like that and you spend so much time, you're like, I really want to race it now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. No, it looks really fun. I think you did a nice job.
Homer is up next, and I'll say Homer is the sweetest guy on earth. Like not the Swedish, but the sweetest, because he reached out. He's like, Jesper, how do I get my decorations? I believe we have some free decorations. I'm like, no, Homer, you can spend $50. It's not, you're not getting $50. I'm like, there's just $3 for everybody who signs up. I mean, Beth, Vic, and I aren't that wealthy, and
No,
so
yes, we're contributing to the prize, and we just wanted to make sure that was how we did track building equalization. We had to equalize that no one could spend more than $50. So that was the
exactly, Beth.
equalization factor right there.
$25
So
for you, Ben. That's it. You don't get it anymore. No, but Homer is amazing, and he was asking for some tips about how to decorate it, and he was cut for time. Like 1 week, guys, is not a lot. The only reason we did 1 week is because it was so close to Christmas. It was over. But I'm not sure I would do more than 1 week because I kind of like having the time pressure because otherwise what ends up happening is people start, they do a bit and they never finish. Like you see it all the time. If there isn't a hardcore deadline, like the daily attention span, don't worry Beth, we're not looking at anyone here, but the attention span of the average human being is so small, and that's what we have to take advantage of, that it's 1 week. But Homer's track, like, it spells out H, and there's just trees everywhere, or I'm not even sure what the technical term is for that thing.
yeah, I think that he did do a nice job with like a very symmetrical letter H. I don't know how he could like flip it, because I just think the way the map was, it looks like a long I rather than an H. But I knew that he was trying to do an H because his name is Homer. Um, Lots of trees, so he did go in and have to go in and place those on all the different segments. So he definitely did spend some time. I think he just ran out of time putting in a background. I think he was asking too about putting in a background image. I kind of messed people up by posting this
Yeah, you're candy
aspirational.
cane.
My candy cane. There's no candy caning game.
I
There's
looked at that.
no.
I'm like, how did she do that? I'm so
Yeah,
jealous. Then Victor's like, she photoshopped it. I'm like, oh,
that's
come
right.
on.
Yeah. I basically used OBS and keyed out the blue background. I picked that color with the dropper and I keyed out the background and put in candy cane. So yeah, so I think that like I threw people off thinking that they could put whatever they want in the background. And I think you said maybe in Canary there's the option of
There is.
uploading different photos or whatever, but that hasn't like made it to production yet. And to me, like I do video production. Yeah, I fake everything. You know what I mean? There's nothing. It's all smoke and mirrors. So this track building thing is such a challenge to actually build something concrete. So Homer, I feel you. Your track is much better than mine. You definitely I think if you spent a little more time with it and put some more decorations in and put a background in, I think it would be really good. And I think it would really be a good racetrack, because having those long straightaways, needing to slow down for the corners, could be a really fun orientation and how we use the power-ups. And if you think about, like, it's basically like two parallel echelons, right? So if you had some wind out on course, think about how you could change the dynamics of that course with wind and what power up. So I think it has a lot of potential. It just hasn't been yet realized in terms of the visual components. So, but nice job, Homer.
I also told Homer that don't stop just now. Like, yes,
Yeah.
we're done. Like, the competition ends today, but that doesn't mean you can just like leave your track and never come back to it. You can still decorate it. If it comes up to a certain level where Vanessa goes, yeah, this was good, sure, we'll put it into production and we'll ride it. So it's merely just to get something going and to get people in the track builder, because this has been such a learning experience that I can't wait for the next one. Like I can't wait for people because for a lot of people this was their first time. I think for Ben, for me, for a few others in here, we've dabbled, like we have a lot of fun with it. So we had an unfair advantage. I think in the next one, I think that will be interesting to see what people do. But then we have Jeff. And Jeff was one of the few to do a mountain bike track. And he really was wishing for more. Like, he sent me a message and was like, Jesper, your mountain bike track, this is, yeah, I like it. How do I, how do I get this? I'm like, I had help, man. That's not me. I just built the foundation and the artist went, let there be light. And suddenly there was light. I just get the credit.
Well, I think that he did a really nice job with the tools because it's sort of like I love that torched bleached sky, right? Like that's just sort of like it works really well with those the you said the geological study, right? It's a nice combination with the grays and tones in the rock, so it sort of has this like this very dry feeling. It made me very thirsty. Maybe I was like, oh, but it's like, but it's this torch sky, this torch landscape, and these boulders. But what I liked about that was that he sized them up differently, where there was like foreground elements, and then there were like stuff off in the background. So I don't know if he just took like a rock he already had and made it big like a mountain, because I know that that's a possibility. But the creativity. It's not lost on me, especially now that I've had a chance to play with it. So I think it was one of the other things I said. So I like the distance, and I like the mountains and the elements and the depths. I like how the ground changed. There was some green in there too. So I think that was the way. So in the corner, any of these tracks, adding the corners and the way that the game handles the tilts and stuff, it just makes it more fun to ride on. So I think he did a really nice job.
A big thing as well that's not like we're early in the stages of track building. Like there are things that we're learning now. Like for me, a big thing about the track that I built was when there's a corner, I want there to be a reason you crash. Like I'm not a fan that if you get to the end of the road and you overshoot it, you just crash. Like there's no reason. There doesn't seem to be any logical step. Like you get to the end of it and you crash. Now, something Jeff did well, there's another thing that I really wanted to see more of, is the right level of perspective. Like you briefly spoke about it with the foreground and background, but things need to be the right sizes. Like on Rocky Mountains, there's a bridge or there's a wooden, there's a bench or something that is 3 times the size of the avatar. And you're like, who is this for? Is Thanos coming down? Like, what is this?
It is for Thanos, yes.
So seeing people actually go in there and build things in the right scale, like it really just satisfies the OCD. It satisfies the brain. Like I think like Uncanny Valley is such a big thing. Like if one thing seems off, it's the most basic thing seems off, the entire thing, like it's like a magician. Once you kind of know how they do it, doesn't matter. It's all hocus pocus and it loses its magic. But Jeff did a good job. I think once there's a bit more variety in the mountain bike selection, because he did himself no favors. I mean, you can only really build a wasteland that makes Beth thirsty with those like. And it's not much, like if you can build something else, you have an automatic victory based on the equalized track building competition.
Well,
Simple
but I'm
as
glad
that.
you mentioned the scale though, because I think that again, that is like it's a huge thing to know that have it feel right, right? Like it just has to feel right. So so I think he did a really nice job.
Let's end with the last one. So we're missing Beth. You've yet to submit yours. It's okay if you don't. Yep. Kayla, same for you, missing. Timothy, I know he's got his, but he just can't be bothered decorating, I don't think. So 3 people that I know of still have tracks in the works. So make sure to submit them. You've got 10 hours from now, which is 2 o'clock my time. So midnight my time. It's it. It's done. No more submissions. But last but not least, Jennifer Garcia, last minute submission. She spelled out a word. Do you know what the word she spelled out was?
Well, so the way, again, the track builder stacked it, it's sort of like it came down in loops like this, and I was trying to like turn, and I couldn't quite. Yeah, I know. I was seeing like, wait, what is it? And I'm like, well, it's twisty and turny and overlays on itself, but I didn't see what the word was.
Co-op.
Oh, I'll have to go back and look. Okay, all
so
right.
She spelled out co-op as in cooperative, and I think she encountered one of the bugs in the track builder that I think many encountered, that sometimes the gradient doesn't register. Like you can change the gradients, but if you click the gradient, if you click the plus, it doesn't work. You have to manually type in the number, then it works. But if you press the plus button, so she had apparently built this like looping arch, and she did a great job spelling out co-op. Like if we compare CVR of I think it was Louise, compare that to Jennifer's co-op. I mean, you can definitely tell one was made by a girl and one was made by a boy because there's like straight lines and it works and there's all that thing. But
well, more I think one's made by an electrical engineer and one's made by sort of more of like a creative, like a different. Well, electrical engineers are creative, but it's just sort of like a different, like different lens, right?
that's exactly what I tried to say without sounding sexist, but I may have failed. So I apologize.
No, I knew what you were saying. I just was helping you out there.
Well, that's good. That's what you're here for, Beth, fixing my mistakes. But I like it. But unfortunately, she encountered that bug because I think she had a good idea to have like a looping track that goes up and goes down and all these things. But what she ended up having is this optical illusion of you not knowing where you go. And it was giving me anxiety because I was recording it and I'm like, where's the avatar going to go?
Well, so it's funny that you say that because I didn't know that she had fought with building it up, but that was my initial impression, would be like, wow, if this could like corkscrew up, it would be really pretty cool. So it's kind of good to hear that that's sort of where my brain was sort of connecting the dots for her. And then but the watching the avatar on the video, I definitely was like, like, okay, what if it was a thing where you could make a wrong turn, right? Like, like right now it's not in the game, but like imagine, you're on Fantastic Alien Sea and there's a fork somewhere, like, right? And you need to like, go to the finishing lap. Like you do 6 laps regular, and then the 7th lap, you have to make that last left at the end. Like imagine how confused you would be.
It'd be
like
Moti, just like last night.
It would be, oh my God. Is that a meme yet? Please make that a meme. Please.
No. We'll make it a meme by the end of today.
Oh my gosh. For those of you who didn't watch Zone T, go back and watch it on Dust Bowl Crit. So the 3rd race of the Omnium, second to last lap. Moti's casual sip of water was brilliant. Oh my gosh, that made my night.
This. He was like, I chose a wrong pen. This is a green pen, but he's got his glass of water. He's like sipping. He's like, I'm done. He's like, I'm not done. And there's the facial reaction of like, it's too good. It's so good.
Yeah. No, well, but you know what? Like, so the other thing is that like I thought he was being funny because that he knew he had more racing, because like when I like go across the finish line, I'm not like precisely holding a straw. I am like slumped over, like my aero bars dripping, like panting, hoping that Victor doesn't cut to me because I look like an absolute like train wreck, hot mess. Oh. And he's just like, oh, I think I'm done. And then he was like, oh, I'm not done. So I was.
Well, it felt like a nice tea party. He was like, ooh, this is so lovely. And he's like, oh, I got another lap. Sorry, Moti. Like, that doesn't happen often. And to the caliber of racer like you, we gotta make fun of you. But yes, I think like the whole, if you could do a turn, I think it's a clever gameplay mechanic. It's also paying homage to earlier CVR World Cups. I mean, Scotty Weiss in London taking the wrong turn is just absolutely hilarious, considering how much money is on the line, how much they practice. They come out of the gate and Scotty goes, what? Where did everybody go? So that could be fun. It's good gameplay mechanic, but I'm not sure I like it because Jenna's track just gave me anxiety. Like it's that unknown, it's unnerving feeling, not knowing where to go. Like, I like how you always are on the right track. If you accidentally took the wrong turn, like, no, that's not a fun feeling. It could be a good gameplay mechanic, but
I think the only reason why you might have had that anxiety was because it didn't overlap and come up. I think that like if it actually had the gradients that she wanted, you might not have felt that, same sort of
it wouldn't have
anxiety.
Been overlapping. It was a good track. I like it spelled out co-op. Disable lanes was good. Favorite part is when you get to the end and the track doesn't even line up and it just goes whoosh. He flies back the other way.
That made me feel so good because I was like, great. Like, you know what? That's a feature. I'm gonna like, you know what I mean? Because when I did my candy cane, so I was coming around the inside of the candy cane and then it looped back up. So that corner is tighter than the corner that sits outside of it. So what I had to do was change the segment. When I was making the right turns, I had to make the segment length different so that it like the arch was like a different thing. And so as I was doing it, it would be like, oh, delete segment, and then 25, delete segment, 35, delete segment.
Yes.
So the fact that when I finally came back around to the end and I was like, yeah, and there's a chicane at the finish line, because I was just trying to like get it back on itself.
I finally understand why every track either finishes with a steep little incline at the end or a steep turn. It's because the track builder, the person gets to there and he goes, this doesn't line up. Screw it. We'll just make a quick, tight turn towards the end. Voila, we're done.
Right. Summit Island. Yeah. 11%. And we're done.
I mean, not every corner is the same speed. I mean, that is Ben's mentality. It's too good. But I think we need so the voting will not be anonymous, but it will be done off screen. So you guys will have the vote on Facebook tomorrow. Make sure to look out for CVRcade Riders. Frank will do his vote in his own time, and Beth, Vic, and I, after this, will discuss who we like and who we will share our vote to. But we can give a quick favorite. So, Beth, we have 10 tracks currently submitted. Hit me with your 3 favorite tracks as we've just gone through them.
Okay. Well, I am going to put, it's so hard. So, because I love different things about different ones of them. I'm going to put Jeff's in there because I think that he did a really nice job on the track shape and sort of the perspective and all that. I really liked how that felt. I feel like I could go race that tomorrow, where I feel like it's like, just further along. I loved Ben's, of course, because I do love that Alice in Wonderland, sort of Wizard of Oz, that funkiness. But kudos to to Seb and Vic, and but I'm gonna put, even though I don't think you think he did a good job with the CVR, or you think that the little R was kind of, I'm gonna because I'm gonna put Louise's up there because of trying to spell something out and knowing, and Jennifer did that too, but Louise had a little bit more decoration. So what did I say? Jeff, I said Louise, and I said Ben.
Correct. I think
right.
I agree. All 10. Maybe with the exception of Jennifer's. I don't know. It doesn't. The fact that it doesn't line up at the end is interesting gameplay mechanic. All 10 could be raced tomorrow. Yes. I think they've all got good styles. Yes. I think I agree with you on Ben. I think Ben just gets the track build. I don't think that's any surprise to anyone that Ben is up there and he's spent the hours. He's up there. I think Seb is an outsider. I think Seb's track I really, really like. Yeah, how it looks as a racing track. My only concern is it's too tough. Like the gradient is too steep, so you could only do 1 or 2 laps. But
what were the rolls on that? I thought they were like 2 and 3%. Oh, they're 5. Okay,
I think so,
all right,
like 5.5.
Okay,
but if you only did 2 laps, the reason why I like them is that they force you to attack them. So the issue with many tracks is they're flat. Like that I understand why, because I want to ride a flat track. I'm lazy. It's the most enjoyable thing is. Hills suck. Like, they're not good. Summit Islands, no one goes except for Homer goes, yay, we're going to do Summit Islands today. Which, by the way, is getting a redesign in the way it looks very soon. But I think Seb is good because it forces people to do stuff. Like, it just forces people to attack it because otherwise they will be attacked. So I think it's a good learning experience for a lot of racers. So I like Seb, I like Ben, and Vic has to get it. I think Vic, I sat there and he went to bed at so he had to go to the plane very early in the morning, and he just he went up all night. He's like, I can't be on the podcast. I can't not have a track in the submission. I gotta have something. And yeah, good one. So Seb, Ben, and Vic. So you in the chat, you in the listener right now. I know it's been a long podcast, but it is the one before Christmas. We're wearing our ugly Christmas attire. Ryan has sent us called something Delore for your Dior. I can't speak French, but thank you so much for watching. Watch these videos. Make sure you have your vote. Don't say your vote, or you can't say your vote, but your vote won't count until the official poll tomorrow. each person in the community will have one vote, but as a collective, whoever you decide on gets only one vote. So let's say Seb wins with 5 votes, the next person has 4, then Seb will have one vote, whichever Frank chooses will have one vote, and whoever Beth, Vic, and I combined would select will have one vote. And so the winner will win 150 bucks paid for by me, Beth, and Vic, and we'll transfer it either via bank or PayPal. We'll cross that road when we
Venmo,
get
whatever.
there.
We'll get it to you. Yep.
Whatever Venmo is, but correct. Yes. So thank you very much for watching. This is the final podcast before Christmas. Beth and I and Vic are going to be off. We're going to be back in the new year. So I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope you have a happy new year. It's been a fun year. I think 2020 is only going to get better. Beth, would you like the final word of 2019?
2019. Well, just wishing everyone health, happiness, safe travels, and all the love and all the feels for a great year. Tree Rex over there saying peace out. Thanks everybody for showing up and racing and bringing your best, and wishing you all the best with your families. That's it.
See you in 2020.